Today I'm going to compare two Instax Mini cameras. This one right here is my Fujifilm Instax Mini 7S, and this one is the Lomography Lomo'Instant camera. And both of these cameras use the widely available Instax Mini film from Fujifilm, which you can find pretty much at any electronic store out there. And it also happens to be one of my favorite types of instant film to use, mainly because of its price. It's just so much cheaper compared to the Polaroid instant film. But also it's very easy to use. I like the very small size of the pictures, and I've actually got some really good results using this Instax Mini film from Fujifilm with both of my Instax Mini cameras, the Fujifilm and the Lomography. But which one will give the better results? I guess we'll find out in this video. So for this video, I'm going to be comparing strictly the automatic features of these two cameras. So essentially treating them as a beginner's point-and-shoot type of cameras. But to be fair, the Lomography Lomo'Instant does have several manual types of settings here in the bottom, with the flash on and flash off types of features. And you can also use it with long exposure here with the bulb setting. It also has the option to do multiple exposures here in the front. But for this video, I'm going to be only using the automatic setting here. And the Fujifilm Instax Mini 7S doesn't have like a fully automatic setting. If you're familiar with this camera, you'll see here in the top, you can select between 4 different settings. And this sticker in the back will explain it. So you can use the setting depending on your environment, you'll select anywhere from between indoor or dark all the way to a clear day. And since I'm going to be using this outdoors, I'm going to be using either the clear or the fine setting on the Instax Mini 7S. So let's take a closer look at each of the cameras before testing them out. And let's start off with the Fujifilm Instax Mini 7S. It's definitely not one of the newest cameras out there as far as the Instax Mini cameras. This one came out originally in 2008. And I found this one at the thrift store a few years ago, and it still works really good. And as far as the technical details, it does have a 60mm lens in the front and a focus range of 0.6 meters all the way till infinity. Has a flash in the front, a viewfinder, and the pictures come out of this slot right here. And here you can select your exposure settings. Here's a sticker that I mentioned before that has your options for the exposure settings. In this compartment, you put in your film. And the viewfinder, that's about it. It doesn't have the socket for the tripod. Oh, and it uses 4 AA batteries. And you turn it on by doing this, and you're ready to go. As soon as this light turns green, you can select your setting. Now let's take a look at the Lomography Lomo'Instant camera. Like I said before, a very wide angle lens, 27mm. And here in the front you have this is a flash, but it also has like a little slot where you can select, or you can put in some filters, so some color filters. It does have the mirror right there, and this is your exposure setting, so you can overexpose or underexpose. But for this experiment, we're going to just be using the automatic setting. Your selection here for the multiple exposures, quite an interesting feature for one of these film cameras. Your trigger here in the top. And if you wanted to use, here's the focus range selection. So you can, if you want to use it for selfies or for close portraits from 0.4 meters to 0.9 meters, you can select it right there. Or if you want to take pictures of landscape, you would go with this option from 1 meter all the way till infinity focus range. You have a viewfinder that in my experience is not very accurate. It's a little bit leans a little bit to the side, but it's fine. You have your counter here for your exposures. This one uses, I believe, 4 AAA batteries. And here goes your film. And this one does have a socket for tripod right here on the side. And your pictures come out of this slot right here on the left. And okay, let's go ahead and test out these cameras. I'm going to take both of them to my road trip to Fort Mountain State Park in North Georgia, and we'll test them out and let's see how it goes. Alright, so here's some of the footage that I took at the park. And for it to be a fair comparison, I loaded the cameras with new film from the same Fujifilm double pack. So first I loaded the Instax 7S with the first pack of film through the back of the camera, and then for it to work you have to turn the camera on and press the shutter once, so the blank slide will come out like this. And then I did the same thing with the Lomography Lomo'Instant camera, using the second set of, or the second cartridge of film of the double pack. And by the way, if you hear some whining in the background, that is my dog Hunter, who is a great hiker and a great model for videos like this, but he can be a little bit impatient sometimes when we're standing instead of hiking or walking around when we go out. But here it is. This is how the blank slide comes out of the Lomography Lomo'Instant camera. And now that we're all set with the new film, we're ready to go. And this is the first couple of pictures that I took of Hunter. And then for the second photo, Hunter sat down, and here are the results of the first couple of photos that I took. The Instax Mini 7S on the left and the Lomo'Instant on the right. And as you can see, in the 7S, a very high contrast photo. I think Hunter in the foreground is properly exposed, while the background is a little bit darker and maybe underexposed. And the Lomo'Instant picture, you can clearly see the much wider angle. And a similar effect with Hunter, I think it's maybe a little bit underexposed, but you can still see him, while the background is almost completely dark. So two very different results in the first couple of photos. And then for the next experiment, I tried something a little bit different. I tried shooting down into Hunter and the ground, instead of getting at his same level, just to see if I get a different result in this with these two photos. And here are the results, and as you can see, very different compared to the first one. Much better with the Instax Mini 7S, much better exposed. You can still see the high contrast in the 7S, but you can see more of in the picture, in the frame. You can see Hunter very properly exposed, as well as the leaves around him on the ground. And then on the Lomo'Instant, you get a similar effect as before, with Hunter properly exposed and everything else around the frame, kind of like a vignette, very dark, and two very different moods with these two pictures. In the left is a little bit kind of like a brighter, happier kind of picture, and on the right you see more of a darker, almost like a desolate type of feeling in that second picture. It almost looks like a nighttime shot. And here's another pair of shots in a very similar environment and similar results as before, with better exposure in the Instax Mini 7S. You can also see some of the sun hitting the trees in the background, while the background in the Lomo'Instant picture is very dark. And in case you were wondering, I did take a few pictures without Hunter in them. After we went hiking a little bit, I did take this couple of pictures of the sky with some tree branches. As you can see, again, two very different pictures. One could say that the one on the left with the Instax Mini is properly exposed or more realistic, but I actually like the one on the right a little bit better in this case, because you can actually see the shades of blue in the sky, and the dark vignettes around the frame of the picture. I don't know, I just thought it was a much more interesting photo with the Lomo'Instant. And then I took a couple more landscape photos. I saw the sun rising there in the horizon, and I just wanted to check to see how it would look when I shoot directly into the sun. And here are the results, similar but different at the same time. You can see that the one with that was taken with the Instax Mini 7S, you can see it's much more higher contrast than the Lomo'Instant results. The Lomo'Instant is a little bit of a softer kind of vibe, but I like how you can see more of the detail in the Instax Mini 7S. And just to finish the adventure, I took just a couple more pictures of Hunter again, with very similar results as the ones that I showed you before. Alright, so I'm back home from testing both of the cameras with the Instax Mini film, and let's talk a little bit about differences between the two cameras. And let's start off with the Lomography Lomo'Instant camera. And the main difference with this camera, especially compared to the Fujifilm, has got to be the wide angle lens that you get in this one. With 27 millimeters, you're gonna get everything in the frame, which in my opinion it can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing, I guess, if you're taking pictures of the landscape. It can be very helpful with that. But if you're taking portraits, yeah, you gotta be a little bit careful, because if you're using the automatic setting, your flash is gonna go off almost all the time, and you're gonna get the right exposure on your subject, but your backgrounds may be all dark. That's based on my experience using the Lomography Lomo'Instant. One good thing about this camera is that it does have the little mirror right here in the front, and used with the very wide angle lens, it's really ideal for selfies. So let's talk now about the Fujifilm Instax Mini 7S, and in my opinion this camera does a lot better with the exposures, especially if you select the right setting here in the top. And since I was using it outdoors, I was either using the sunny or the clear setting or the fine setting. And as long as you select the right one, you're gonna get your picture properly exposed. I also like that this one is extremely easy to use. You just turn it on like this and you're ready to shoot, or select your setting here in the top and you're ready to shoot. I was a little bit, especially when you're outdoors and it's a little bit cold outside using the lomography, it's easy to just select the wrong setting here in the bottom when turning it on. And sometimes I would accidentally select the multiple exposure button here in the front, and that would sometimes ruin one of my exposures. With this one, you're ready to go straight from turning it on and selecting your right setting. So much easier to use, and I was actually able to get better results of portraits using this camera. And in summary, I would say that both of these cameras are actually really good cameras. If you're a beginner, if you're trying to get started with instant photography, especially with the fact that it does cost money to use instant film, I would recommend using this one, the Instax Mini 7S. It is a great camera. I've had it for a long time and it still works really well. You're gonna get really good results right out of the pressing the shutter button or turning it on. So it's a much safer option for beginners or for people just looking to do it for fun. This one, the Lomo'Instant camera, it's also a really good camera for more experienced photographers, I would say. Especially if you want to experiment with some of the manual settings, if you want to do multiple exposures, or if you want to do long exposures. This would be a really cool camera to use. But honestly, I haven't really used this camera for a lot of the manual settings. So my go-to camera, or the winner in this comparison, in my opinion, is the 7S, which, by the way, is not the newest version of the Fujifilm Instax Mini cameras. There's much more modern options out there. But even to these days, nowadays in 2022, I find myself using this one much more compared to my Lomography camera. That being said, it does take some trial and error to select the right setting here in the top when you get started shooting with the Fujifilm camera. But once you get used to it, it's actually really easy in the future to select the right setting. And again, most of the times you're gonna get the right exposure using this camera. The only thing that this one is missing is really a mirror here to try to get the right selfie. But there are some accessories that you can buy for the 7S. And some of the more modern Instax Mini cameras from Fujifilm do have that mirror in the front. And that's it for my video. I hope you had or you got something out of this video comparing these two cameras. Maybe if I get another Instax Mini camera in the future, I will do another comparison or another review. but these are the only two that I have for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.